there's not any one particular thing that is meditation. It's like a umbrella category of sort of silent stillness breath work practices. And if you have not tried meditating before, but you are curious to start and you don't know where to start, I don't know. There's a lot of different things that you might hear about it, and you might think this is how you meditate correctly, or this is how you meditate, or that if I'm doing this while I'm trying to meditate, so to speak, you might think to yourself that you're not meditating correctly. And I think that it is a personal journey that you will find your own version of what works for you. I think what they all have in common, maybe, or I have found that meditation winds up being the accessing of flow state, the unblocking and letting out of creative, imaginative flow within the mind's eye without any activity to lock in to the flow state on. The way that when you're writing, when you're working on an essay, they say get past those 15 minutes where you're easily distractible and you'll enter the flow state and you'll be able to do it so effortlessly, almost effortlessly. Or we think of sport, like athletic training, going for a run as something where you eventually enter flow state. Really any sort of creative, expressive enterprise, human endeavor that you might engage in is where we think of ourselves as entering or accessing or opening flow. And meditation is achieving that neurological cognitive consciousness state without actually doing anything, without an activity, a flow state activity to access it with. That doesn't mean that your mind's eye will always enter flow, and that only if you wind up having visions, seeing things in your mind's eye, that's the only version of meditating where you succeeded, right? But I think for me, I've experienced that even with consistency of practice, any number of times, I do not wind up having visions or, experiencing those different types of brainwaves that you sometimes do experience when you meditate, or entering different forms of consciousness, or any of that stuff. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. I think it helps to go in with no expectation or goal of I need to experience this version of meditation in order for it to be successful today. And to just accept that sometimes it will be more, I suppose, fruitful than others. Although, again, the catch-22 is that going into it for like fruitive purposes sort of defeats the purpose. They come when they come, and whether or not they come, the success is that you took the time away from the material reality, the perceived needs of productivity or self-improvement or whatever it is that you tell yourself, I'm not enough if that you step away from those sort of pressing demands of day-to-day life, your to-do list or whatever, and you engage in this delayed gratification activity of keeping up your habit of meditating. Anyway, if you don't know where to start meditating, here is one version of how to meditate that you might try that I haven't really seen anyone else describe it in these terms that I'm about to. And this is one that I practice, that I cherish. We're gonna breathe in and out, both through the nose, but it's not going to be like this when you breathe in, right? It's not going to sound like that. It's going to sound kind of like that. It's gentler. It's sort of letting, thinking of the airbag of your lungs and belly, like in your chest where you hold breath. Just sort of thinking in terms of inhale and fill up the bag, but as slow as possible. And then exhale, squeeze out the contents of the bag, but again, as slow as possible, making the breath as long as possible. And in terms of the musculoskeletal, like mechanical side of it, I find that if I just focus on keeping the rate correct by hearing the sound going in and out of my nose and keeping that at the right level, and then just not putting any tension anywhere in the muscles or ligaments or tendons or like anywhere throughout the body, not trying to apply tension and force the breath in or out, not trying to pull it in, not trying to squeeze it out, but just letting that slow rate, letting my sort of non-consciously controlled side of controlling my body just sort of reflexively follow the rate of breath with my nose. So not that type of inhaling and not that type of exhaling. Much quieter, more like for the inhale and for the exhale. Okay. And those breaths were pretty long, but that doesn't even actually scratch the surface of if I do this for 20 minutes or a half hour or an hour or longer, man, that rate of breath can be slow, so slow. And then heart rate follows and brainwave frequency, if you subscribe to such notions, also follows. The rate of my consciousness, my conscious thought slows down. No pressure to like empty out your mind or whatever, and don't beat yourself up if you find yourself consciously thinking. Just sort of let the thoughts come like a stream as they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop outright, but just when they come, just see what they are and then let the stream continue past you, let them go away. And one thing that I have noticed that you may find is the like cyclical nature, like we talk about thought loops and doom loops in terms of mental health. You'll start to see how on a nervous system level, you are this like meat flesh robot that has wired yourself by practicing certain thought patterns, thought loops, to recurrently think those things. And you will start to realize how some of the thoughts that bring you anguish or suffering or whatever, they're just thoughts you're in the habit of thinking. And you can start to label them for the thought loops that they are. And it might even help to verbally out loud vocalize that to yourself. When you catch yourself thinking it, say, I am thinking this thought loop. And then stop practicing that and let it go and let it go past you and try to focus on, maybe find your breath, focus on the here and now, be here now, right? Eckhart Tolle. And focus on something that's more constructive in your immediate present to focus on, bring your consciousness and attention to. On the inhale, I find I get more tense throughout the body more frequently, although sometimes I am able to achieve incredible relaxedness on the inhale. On the exhale, as my shoulders drop, is more so where I try to let everything head to toe in my entire body, the muscles in my forehead or my cheeks or my jaw or, hips, shoulder, anywhere that you might hold tension as you breathe. I find it's more effective to let that stuff relax on the exhale. I also find that sometimes, in terms of what thoughts do pop into my head or what visions I might see, that this is really new, actually. This isn't like the whole history. I've started to notice that maybe on the inhale, I have more so visions of that which I'd like to manifest, right? Like vision board of life I'm trying to construct, path I'm trying to follow, where I'm trying to go in this life. And then on the exhale, it's that from which I'm trying to detach. So the negative self-concept, worry, fear, anxiety, like that stuff, it's almost like take these long, lengthen your breath as much as possible, let it go as low and slow as possible, and as you're exhaling out that which you are detaching from, and you are inhaling that which you are trying to manifest or bring about. So yeah, that's one version of meditating that I practice, that I find helpful for myself, and some thoughts about what it even is that is the objective of meditating in terms of creative flow with no activity. That helps you then when you are trying to enter flow, performing some activity, you're just better at accessing flow in general, or just letting flow out. 'Cause I personally believe that creative flow is the natural state of the human and the body and the consciousness, and that we choose to block it with so many of our decisions and the ways we live our lives. So yeah, flow is something that we are improving our connection to. And maybe keep a journal next to you if you start to get good enough at doing it. If you're able to record what the creative flow is showing you in your mind's eye as it's happening without ending it, maybe keep a journal next to you and write things down. Otherwise, maybe afterwards go try and write them down in retrospect, try and recall them and write them down. But I definitely think that it is whatever it is that your imagination might allow you to access or envision in that state of consciousness. I personally find that it feels better to record it and try and channel it into some form of creation later on. Okay, peace out.